All right, folks, welcome to the Running Restaurants podcast, where we're bringing the tips, tools, and techniques you need to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jaime Oikle. Got a great episode for you today with Stephen Klein, co-founder and CEO of Saivory, an AI-powered restaurant technology company. So super hot segment that you are in. Give a quick overview, and then I want to dig into what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on. Saivory is a company that started about a year and a half ago. Four co-founders. One of my partners is actually a co-owner of a Mexican brand with about 30 units in and around Texas. And right around the time that ChatGPT came out, he and one of my other co-founders, who's a serial software entrepreneur, were looking at their business and said, we're really reliant on third parties, the Easy Caters and DoorDashes of the world. And, we do a ton of catering, a lot of online business, but it's just a kludgy system to get customers to come in and, find what they want and, build the right cart when you're doing a large specific, catering or large order. And it just should be easier than that in the age of AI, right? I mean, customers are now used to having answers kind of at their fingertips. And what if we could do something better that required fewer decisions, less time, no calculations, et cetera? And really, if we can make that experience better for our customers, we'll do better in terms of cart abandonment, loyalty, and essentially, we'll be able to grow our first party business that way. And so they said, let's tinker with technology where we could just have a natural language prompt, have somebody come and say, I'm throwing a party for 40 people and 10 are vegetarians, or you name, really a lot of flexibility in what they can say. And then let's just generate what we believe to be the ideal cart for that person, based on what we know from our, data and customer and, product mix and what the AI learns over time. So that was really the start of the business. They got strong results over that year and decided, there's a company here, let's spin up something to, to serve this need. And really, it's all everything that we've done since, and with additional products and what we're working on now, everything that we're doing is really intended to help drive first party growth for restaurant brands, and reduce reliance on agencies, be it, marketing performance agencies, web and app agencies, et cetera, and really help streamline the process for profitable growth.
Awesome. All right, man. I jotted down a bunch of things there, and you hit on really what I would call pain points. You hit on stuff that people are dealing with every day. Making the orders easier, finding people, not losing them. Like cart abandonment, and those things happen. So let's stick with the first party. Third party ordering versus first party. Let's put some definitions around those terms for people if they're not thinking exactly clearly on those.
Yeah, so I think about third party versus first party in a couple ways. One is essentially attracting that customer discovery, and then converting that customer, right? And, when it came to Fajita Pete's, the 30-unit Mexican brand that my co-founder is involved with, and, they do a ton of online and a ton of catering. Well, a large percentage of their business comes from Easy Cater, right? And that's great for volume, but it's not so great for margins, given things like the commissions that they take. And it's not so great for owning your customer, right? I mean, it's really important for brands like that to be able to remarket to their customers, to, build that relationship for, future traffic, et cetera. And so that's one area that's really critical, is that convert path. Another is when customers are looking for options online, a lot of times they start at Google, and nowadays they're starting more in kind of ChatGPT, Claude, et cetera. And both channels are really important. And it's really critical for brands to show up and ultimately be transactable. But for right now, really show up in those channels. And, the DoorDashes of the world, Uber Eats, TripAdvisor, Yelp, et cetera, these are platforms with really strong technology. And they know how to game the system, right? I mean, they know how to show up when you say best donuts near me. Why should TripAdvisor and Yelp show up? I mean, I live in Texas, where Shipley is a household name and a brand that we work with closely and are really fond of. And, they own that market. They should be showing up first, right? And so it's really important for our customers, these restaurant brands, to be where their customers are searching, wherever that journey is, and that is migrating to some extent to these AI applications, and they really just need to be wherever their customer is. So those are kind of just some of the third parties out there that are great for restaurants in a way that they bring volume, but they really hamper the ability to grow that first party loyalty.
I want to come back to that question of discovery and how restaurants can get kind of found as people are using Chat and Gemini and the other ones that you mentioned. But let's talk about first party data. And that's like when you own the data. Okay. So you're taking the order and you're putting it in your database, and now you can remarket to it. And that's so much more powerful. And we talk a lot about it on the site of why, because, don't just rely on someone else's database, build it yourself. So on a Tuesday, you can send out a promotion at 11:30 and talk about lunch, and 6:30 and talk about how, what's going on special that weekend. So what are you guys doing to not incentivize is not the right word, but really emphasize the importance of getting the data and what to do with it in the future?
Yeah, so a couple things. So currently we have this AI ordering system and what we call smart landing pages that help you get found essentially in search and ultimately in the LLMs. But I think part of it starts with just better experiences and loyalty, right? I mean, if you can drive a great experience and faster, potentially at better economics for your customer, they're going to come back, right? And, with Fajita Peaks, my co-founder Hugh says, hey, we love getting these orders, we love getting first party growth, but part of the value, it's not just larger orders, it's not just orders, that don't come with commissions, but it's really about growing that CRM, right? It's really about growing, when you get that first party information, about being able to contact that person and say, anything from, you can segment locally, hey, the Houston rodeo is happening, like, shouldn't you consider us for catering, et cetera. And there are a lot of different marketing techniques that can be paired with that kind of technology to drive, more first party growth. On the data side, we're working on some really cool things in agentic marketing that can help bring together tons of data points that, from all over the web, your first party information, your customers, et cetera, and allow you to make decisions in real time using data points that, an agency or, a human team just can't do on a daily basis. So stay tuned for more about that, but we're really excited about sort of helping restaurants streamline their overall kind of business processes with this agentic AI that obviously everybody's talking about these days.
Yeah, another big buzzword there with the agents running around. I got to do more research myself because I keep seeing that out there, and I don't have a total clear understanding of all these agents running around doing things in the background for your benefit. Do you want to share a little bit more there?
Yeah, I'll give you an example of that. So if we can connect our system to all kinds of tools, everything from Google Analytics and AdWords and data for SEO, public sources, views of competitors, and our own internal, information as a restaurant brand. What I want to do is be able to enable once a day or once a week, you decide, it either shows up in your inbox or in Slack or WhatsApp or whatever you use to manage, saying, hey, we ran all of this data, thousands, millions of data points overnight, right? And here are 10 proactive things that you can do to improve either your advertising or make changes on your website or, for SEO and for conversion, all this kind of stuff. Like, we're just going to surface that for you. And rather than having to have, send that to an agency or have, a bunch of decision-making on the process, it's real data-driven opportunity to just say, yep, let's do that. And here's the quantifiable value that you get from it. That's what we're working on right now. And we think it's really valuable because when you're reliant on a bunch of back and forth between, your partners and evaluating a bunch of data at human speed, you just can't be that proactive, right? I mean, you can't really accumulate these opportunities in real time and kind of speak to them for optimization.
I do want to hear more about that in the future, because I totally can see how valuable that could be for a restaurant. And I use ChatGPT a little bit more and more, and I've been pleasantly surprised with the answers. I've been pleasantly surprised with, hey, you're asking this, but what about this as the next step? And so it really does a good job prompting those connections that usually a lot of us just need a little push. Oh yeah, I got to think about that. So what are you seeing in terms of discovery? Because like I'm finding that Google and other search engines are trying to just give me the answer right on the screen, like that little AI answer, and then I don't need to go out to the website anymore. Is that funneling some restaurant traffic away? And how can restaurants deal with that search kind of algorithm SEO stuff?
Sure. I think that landscape is unfolding before our eyes in real time, right?
Right now, yeah.
So some of this is beholden to the business decision that ChatGPT and other, OpenAI and others are making. But we think it's important from a future-proofing standpoint to make sure that as more and more traffic goes that direction, our restaurant brands can be findable and then ultimately transactable there, right? And without going too much into the technology, some of it is about sort of the way that you structure your data, enable visibility, et cetera. But to your point, I think we want to be there in a world where a customer ultimately goes to, Claude or ChatGPT and says, order lunch for my meeting tomorrow, and connecting to all of your tools and data, that system can look at your calendar, find out, what meeting you have, where it is, how many people, et cetera, and essentially do all the work for you, right? Google's not going away. In fact, in many ways they're getting stronger, but they're changing, right? But it's just important to have, wherever your customers start their journey, to be there, because that the third parties that, are really strong with technology, they're going to be there. And AI could just be another path where dominant DoorDashes and et cetera of the world have, find another way to own that customer relationship.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to enable.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I want to get a little bit tactical for a second. Actual customer data. So I'm a restaurant and I'm doing ordering and I'm doing digital ordering and catering. What are some of the data points that I want to capture that I can use in the future? What does it look like?
I think some of it is, for example, in what we're discussing about AI, ordering with natural language, you can learn a lot from one query, right? I'm throwing a party for Super Bowl, actually with 30 people. That actually tells you a lot about somebody, right? And some of this is just using the restaurant's data in a smart way. So we work with Shipley, and we know what kind of typical order mixes are for Shipley in terms of the donut mix, ultimately the kolache mix, et cetera. And we can surface those things. We can make it easy when somebody comes back to obviously, rebuy, et cetera. Well, there's a lot of these customer data points involved. But really, I think it's about getting smarter over time, using a mix of what from your own POS and your own, menu mix, et cetera, and what you're learning from customers. And that can change in real time. It's not algorithmic, right? It's not preset basis for, what you respond to folks. And there's really, pretty rich capability with natural language to, like I said, learn from this consumer, use that and how you remarket to them and kind of alter what you're showing. Like, for example, Shipley will come up with LTOs that they're excited about, and they want to see how they do with consumers. So we can help surface those, new menu options or LTOs that they're marketing, and learn a lot about sort of what customers are interested in, what the attach rate is, what happens when you include product X versus product Y as, a recommended upsell or cross-sell. So there's just a ton of rich data, and we're kind of just scratching the surface there.
Yeah, listen, one of the questions that I had jotted down was about that personalization aspect, and e-commerce folks do it well, Amazon and others, and it's starting to filter in, not starting, but it's filtering into businesses all over, and just really starting to really get into restaurants. So You talked a little bit about that aspect of it. What can personalization look like as a restaurateur doing your marketing, using the data from previous orders and previous visit times and like that to do future marketing? Anything else come to mind? Any other tips and thoughts in that realm?
I mean, there's kind of an endless potential here, right? I mean, if somebody orders a catering or large event, anytime that there's in a specific region, there's a marketable event to go after. Here's what you had last time. Here's a new product that you should consider. And by the way, here's 10% off an order over X dollars. I mean, there's standard marketing techniques that can be applied here and used, very commonly, proactively, et cetera. And I think you also can learn and segment customers as they move in and out of like various, segments that you view. Here, you had this in your last order, but this is a new popular thing that we think that you would like to try. Or, for Shipley's as an example, everybody in Texas knows what kolaches are, but as they expand, and they're in, I think, 14 or 15 states now, it's the opportunity to introduce things that may not be second nature to, somebody in a state where that's not as popular or not as known an entity. So again, I think the real value, becomes when you can really pair your marketing strategy and your technology capabilities so that they work together. And that's a lot of what we're working on right now.
Something I want to ask you about that is kind of in the same realm, but you guys may or may not do this directly, but it sounds like you're learning a lot about this. And maybe you do. I land on a restaurant website. How can the restaurant move that landing to an order as effectively as possible? Do you think about that?
It's a great question. And that's really something we're focused on with these smart local pages, smart landing pages. So right now, if you look for best donuts near me, right, you ought to see a page that comes up that's about donuts, that is e-commerce friendly, that's promoting something near you that makes sense, right? That's convertible. Like you wouldn't want to see, if you land on a Shipley page, but you got there asking about kolaches, you wouldn't want to see a standard landing page that's all about donuts, right? So our pages, what they can essentially do is they can dynamically build the content on a page, on a landing page, to directly speak to the query that a person put into, say, search, right? And this is great for a few things. First of all, it ends up higher, you do a better job of search visibility, and we've certainly seen this in terms of driving traffic. Obviously, more relevant content to your request is going to do a better job of getting you further down that funnel for conversion. But you can also do something really neat, which is where you essentially pair your paid ad strategy to match what you're building in terms of these landing pages, which drives up quality scores. It drives up ROAS by, decreasing cost per click, particularly on long tail. And what you can really end up doing is sort of having this dynamic environment powered by AI that speaks to the user, converts better, and does so at better economics. So that's something that we're working on right now. We have in market, but we're really excited about and seeing good data.
Nice. A little bit separate, but as you think of bigger picture and opportunity and trends, what would you say is kind of a big opportunity that restaurants might be missing or folks aren't talking about? And it could be inside what you guys are doing or outside of it. What do you think?
I think, and this isn't just true to restaurants, but lots of industries, but obviously we're focused here in the restaurant world. I think, there's a lot of excitement about what AI can do. There's a lot of excitement about agentic, right? But I really think that where there are AI ordering systems out there, there are AI SEO stuff, but I think what we're really excited about next is what I've described in this agentic marketing platform, right? Which is, restaurants have been reliant on agencies that take time to react to changes, can be expensive. And there's just a limit to what humans can do in terms of responding to the opportunities to change in real time, right? And so, our real goal here is to build something that can really reduce that reliance in a meaningful way. For smaller brands, you may not need them all together, right? And you can really be responsive to the trends in the industry, change your website, your ads, your copy, everything on the fly, to respond to proactive choices for really optimizing your tech presence, your digital presence. And that's something that I don't see a ton of out there that I think in the next few years will be very appealing to a lot of brands.
Hey, I want to go outside of this. I like to ask guests for a book recommendation or favorite quote. Is anything you're reading now or that you like to recommend to folks? What do you think?
So I just finished reading The Infinity Machine, which is about the lead founder from DeepMind. This is interesting. In a prior life, I was an investor in the public markets and internet and software, and knew Google very well and remembered when they bought DeepMind. Yep. But this is interesting because it's all about this guy who was a chess prodigy early in life and built DeepMind with this huge vision of AGI. And in addition to kind of being a biography and background of DeepMind and now what they're doing, they just spun out this business to go do protein folding with isomorphic labs, which is really cool. Okay. In addition to that, it kind of gives a very topical background on how we got here with OpenAI and Anthropic and DeepMind and all these players. So, it's both a kind of an interesting read about this guy and what drives him, but also very relevant to where we sit today.
Nice. Yeah, it's been an amazing path. It's only going faster and faster. What about business advice, general life advice, quotes, anything that really drives you or you share with folks on your team or family?
Business advice and quotes. I'll just tell you one that I've been thinking about a lot. On quotes, I could break out Seinfeld because I have learned a lot there. But instead, let's be more self-righteous. I love the quote. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Right? I mean, that's Buddha-esque, I know, or actually a Buddha quote. But that's something I try and keep in mind. Right? Is and the fact that perspective is really what drives our experiences, and that you can look at a whole slew of specific facts or events from multiple different perspectives that really skew, your experience of them and your reaction to them. So that just comes to mind because it's something that I always try to remind myself. But just a thought.
Good, Stephen. Yeah, well, listen, we've covered a lot. Talk about the website. Talk about you guys geographically, where you are helping customers, how you are helping customers, how folks can learn more, get a hold of you guys. What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are based in Texas, although we have members of the team who are in other countries, and we work with folks who are kind of all over. We started with Fajita Pete's here in Texas. Obviously, Shipley is multi-state. We haven't worked internationally yet, but we are pretty open to working with brands of really all sizes. I think our sweet spot is certainly in the meaningful multi-units, but we are working with customers who are 30 units and customers who are several hundred units. We are available at www.saivory.com. Tried to go on a play on that AI spelling, and sometimes it's confusing and needs explanation, but I thought it was clever. So that's us in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I do want to spell it out for folks on that if you're just listening, you're not seeing the graphic of the company. It's SAIVORY.com. And so forth. So, all right. Well, we covered a lot. I appreciate it, folks. Stephen Klein of Saivory, and also their related founder brand Fajita Pete's. If you're down in their area, check those guys out. But you can find Saivory on the web at Saivory, SAIVORY.com. And for more great restaurant marketing, service, people, and tech tips, stay tuned to us here at Running Restaurants, runningrestaurants.com. In the meantime, please do us a big favor. Like the episode, subscribe to us if you're not, review us, hit a button, rate it. All that stuff is really helpful. If you could just take a second or two and do that, that would be great. And I would appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.